All right. Well, yay, guys. I'm super excited that we're meeting again to continue our conversation about the retreat that we're hosting in September. It's going to be fantastic. So, you know what I was thinking about? I was thinking, Lisa, that time we were on a call and one of the participants said, "Hey, I have a question for you. How does one get to be the chief spiritual officer?" I thought that was a great question.
It was a great question, and it certainly allowed me to rethink about my own life and how I became the chief spiritual officer of Thriving Leader Collaborative. And the way that happened is that I gave myself that assignment, actually, and with Terry's good support and guidance, and yes, let's use that. And the first time I was called a chief spiritual officer was actually sitting around a table with healthcare leaders. And I was presenting the next day, and I was there with their chaplain and their CNO and their CEO. And so there I was with these chiefs, and we had this meaningful conversation that they found very helpful. And they said, the chaplain actually said, "I think you're our chief spiritual officer for tomorrow," and I liked that. And I thought, why not? Why would I limit myself? And I did the inner work that it took to accept and receive that about myself. And that's what I love about what we do at Thriving Leader Collaborative is we literally look at the way we lead ourselves through the world. And when we can have a clear map or an idea, a presence in ourselves, how we lead ourselves, that's when we can really sustain and enjoy leading others. Without that guidance, that inner guidance and that inner knowing, we sort of flounder and we don't really trust our own leadership. And so I think it's a profound question. And it's one that has helped me really own my spiritual experiences, why they matter, and share them with others.
Well, I imagine that we will live in a world someday where every organization has a chief spiritual officer, right? That's like progress, big time. DeAnna, tell us about your chiefdom and how you got there.
Oh, wow. How did I get here? So I consider myself a chief creative officer. So, creativity is such a part of my day-to-day. It's just a part of my life. And I honestly, I feel like it's a part of everyone's lives, especially when we take a moment to really look at it and see it as such. But my journey into leadership was something that is actually quite funny and hilarious. I've done my best to stay out of leadership positions, even though I'm a natural leader. I have the leadership qualities, but I always wanted to take a back seat. I always wanted to be the person behind the scenes, kind of pushing other people, kind of, if I had a mic, speaking into the mic, giving them the tidbits and information. And a lot of it was just because I had a lot of uncertainties around taking that responsibility, really taking responsibility, thinking that it had to look a certain way, it had to fall within a certain system or framework. And so what happened as a result of that is that I was running from my leadership. I was running from it, just quick to nominate other people and, hype up everybody else, be their cheerleader. But I was like, I don't want that responsibility. I remember I had to be in my 20s and I was just having this conversation with myself. And I was like, I don't want to be famous because I don't want the responsibility that comes with that. Like, I just said this out loud and it seems to have come from nowhere, but it did come from somewhere. It was giving me some information that I needed. And as I began to trust my voice, trust myself, and also having people calling me out. So it's like, look, we see you in the background. We see you. Why don't you take this on? Why don't you lead this? And as I continue to say yes and lean into the discomfort, I took off my running shoes and now I have on my walking shoes. And I'm walking in this space of leadership and trusting my unique way of leading, because I think what also tripped me up was that I was looking at how everyone else was leading, and that didn't necessarily feel authentic to me. And that was the issue, was that I was trying to mimic and copy other people as opposed to honoring my voice and my unique way of expression. So Chief Creative Officer. That's my way. That's part of my way to chiefdom, but I'm sure we'll get more into the specifics as we go.
I love it. And I'm also hearing you were a runner, and now
Yes.
now what are you?
I was, oh goodness, I was a runner. And also just running away from, responsibility. I have a really interesting relationship with it. I think because I'm the oldest of four, and in my initial years, I was raised by a single parent. So responsibility, I'm very familiar with being responsible at a young age, but I think when I became an adult, I was like, I don't want responsibilities, because as a child, I had those responsibilities. So I was just like, let me just be out here. I don't want to be responsible for no one, nothing. But what I didn't realize was that by saying that, I wasn't taking responsibility for my life. So it's been this whole journey and discovery around responsibility actually being a very beautiful thing. Because even if you look at the etymology of it, responsibility is the ability to respond. That's really what it is. Are you responding to your call? Are you responding to your purpose? Are you responding to what lights you up? And when I took all of the world's view of responsibility off of it and got to know what responsibility is for myself, it helped me to relax. I'm like, of course I want to be responsible. Of course I want to answer the call of my life. Of course I want to, I have that ability. I have to do that for myself. I've done that for everyone else. Now it's time for me to respond to my heart. So it's been a journey, but yeah, I would run from jobs.
Right. I can really relate to what you're saying, DeAnna, and I love that you're bringing this up, because the idea of response and responding to the calling of your life and the calling of your heart. And I, for one, was a follower, total all out follower. I was raised in Burbank, California, in a very conservative environment, a handful of Latino people. My family is Hispanic. And so I was taught to follow, even to the point of my parents were bilingual, but we were taught to not speak Spanish in the home. The educators at the time said that it would confuse us. And so we lost that language in a natural way. So that was just a micro of this, be a follower. It's safer to be a follower. Mm-hmm. And so that, in my experience, that stuck. And so I was also raised in a religious family as and so I was learned to follow the priest, and then after that the pastor, and to let others lead. They knew more, they had more wisdom, and I did that for long, and I learned, and I'm very grateful. So grateful for all of it. I don't want to sound like there's any negative attachment to it, because I'm at a point in life where I realize all of our life experiences serve us and teach us if we allow it. And so learning to trust my own inner knowings and I had profound spiritual experiences at the bedside of my boys when they were being treated for leukemia, and when Justin made his transition out of physical. And those were the kinds of things that really prompted me to pay attention to, why am I following and agreeing with others who are saying your spiritual experiences aren't safe or they're dangerous. That was what I was taught, that stay away from anything that had to do with spiritists or mediums or hearing a voice, an inner voice, or all of that. So follow until cracked open, having my own experiences and realizing that all the wisdom that's seeking to emerge through my life is here to expand and explore, and it's safe out here. It's safe, and that I really truly can lead myself in a safe, in a loving way, and really expand and feel that security and joy in that. And it was a real game changer for my grief experience, to embrace it rather than fear it.
I just want to say something. Thank you for that, Lise. When I'm listening to you, and I'm also hearing this conversation around the either or versus both and I think that was a lot of why I was running, because I thought it had to be either this or that, like it could not be like you say, working in this, having this experience and having the mystical, the spiritual, the more heart-led, I thought I had to choose. And that was where the rub was. That was where that internal conflict, because, you know, I used to work for this amazing company called Business Wire. It's probably my last corporate job. And I remember going to the printer, and all of a sudden I had this thought. I was like, if I continue making this amount of money, I will never have enough money to pay off my student loans. Like I wasn't making enough to even pay the minimum on my student loans. And I just was like, I can't do this. And so instead of seeing it as this can support you and you can start developing these other things, it was like, nope, I gotta cut this job off. And I cut the job off and struggled. After that, I struggled because I thought I had to choose this or that. And then what ended up happening was I heard, it was an interview that a good friend of mine did. And she worked at Apple at the time. She was building her cosmetics company, doing well in both of them. And she said, you know, yeah, I work at Apple. I love working here, but I know it's not my end goal. My end goal is this business that I'm building. And she said, but I look at Apple as my angel investor. You know, I complete a certain amount of hours in exchange from my service. I receive these funds. And as a result, those funds take care of my day-to-day and it pours into my business. And when I heard that, it was like the lights went off. Like, oh, let me start looking at my corporate jobs or my 9-to-5s or 10-to-6s as my angel investor. And then that's when I began to realize, like, you can do both, DeAnna. It doesn't have to be either or. We live in this abundant universe where, you know, and also, again, trusting in my ability to be able to do both and knowing how to set boundaries and honoring that. But that was a big one. Just realize I didn't have to choose and limit myself, that I could expand, expand to really create the life that I'm currently living and experiencing.
Right. It's another way of leading and going from a victim mentality of, oh, poor me, I have this job I don't like, to participating. I'm choosing this and I'm changing my perspective from what in A Course in Miracles calls a miracle. It's such a profound shift in perception that it changes the way you see the world. And that is a miracle. And so it's a great example of a miracle, really. And we take those new ways of seeing the world into our leadership abilities, into our leading ourselves and leading others. So Terry, we have a name that we experienced when we were talking about our chiefdoms. What is yours? What is your word?
My word is teetering or teeter-tottering, to take it another level. So when I think about, I was CEO, Chief Executive Officer, in very serious jobs and VP jobs at the corporate level. And all that time I was teetering. I was always teetering in my place of restlessness of, oh, I should focus on this, and this is a priority. Oh no, now this is a priority, and I allowed that teetering to drive my life. And that doesn't happen anymore. Now I know how to center myself. I know how to be the fulcrum of all that's on my book of business or my balance bar, let's say, of priorities. And now I move towards that which I want to accomplish and that which I want to prioritize. And I love teaching people that. So now I see myself as the Chief Experience Officer and helping people experience just what you both have been saying, is that experience the end place. I can work in this job and I can prioritize my well-being. I can live a life of ease and a life of joy. And that it's a matter of taking a step back. Let's call that retreat. Yeah. Right? So retreat in order to dig a little bit deeper, go a little deeper internally. And that's what I think that we're all good at doing, is that providing that space for people to do that. For me, it wasn't just a retreat. It's something that's evolved over time. And it might have something to do with the gray hair. I don't know. But either way, it's been a journey. And, I like to think that you know, and I feel sometimes more sage, you hear people say, like, as you age. And what I believe we all bring to bear is that one can be sage at any age, right? And so I'm just super excited, yeah, about what we're able to offer, and with our combined skills and experience, that we're able to provide that for participants at the retreats.
Yeah, that was definitely my favorite part of our last retreat, our Monterey retreat in 2022, was to sit amongst each other, amongst other women who were there, and all are welcome. This particular retreat, we had a lovely group of women from diverse backgrounds, from chief CEOs running in a, you know, at a high level executive jobs, as well as everything in between, and healthcare professionals as well. And I think one thing that we can do as human beings when we want an expansive experience is to be with others from different backgrounds. And so from my perspective, sitting with the CEO and the chief nurse officer of a critical care unit and sharing stories of what it's like to be in those roles was so expansive. You remember? It was just like, wow, like, you know, light was going on everywhere, saying, well, I didn't know this was what it was like for you to lead in the way that you lead. And I didn't know that it helps me look at myself and how I lead myself. And the first night of the retreat, people, you know, we always come in a little, it's a new space, or, you know, our guard is up and we're kind of checking each other out. What's she wearing? And look at her hair. And, you know, these things that we just do as human beings, sizing each other up. And then, but by the second day, you know, no one was wearing makeup. The clothes were more relaxed and comfortable. The conversations, we naturally, you know, gravitated to the person who was just the perfect person to talk with, or walking through the redwoods and having conversation in an organic way. And that's what I love about our retreats, is that we offer that. And when we come together with this mindset of, how can I serve? This is my life wisdom. This is the sage wisdom I've earned. This is me leading myself so that I can make my offering. And we come together in that way, magic happens. And so to me, the beauty of a retreat is that you literally step out of your normal world. You get on into another environment. In this case, it'll be Estes Park, Colorado, on a beautiful mountain environment. And you can literally let your guard down and be with people who care and are here to serve and help you to, navigate whatever comes up. And that's what I love about retreat as a spiritual practice. You know, I've heard it said before that worry is not a spiritual practice. It was Reverend Michael from Agape International Spiritual Center that used to teach that, taught that. And there's so much to worry about these days. I don't know about you, but there is a lot going on in the world, and there's plenty of worry, plenty of worry. And when we convert that worry to prayer, we hand it over to prayer, to meditation, to walking in the woods, walking barefoot on the ground, sitting in circle in conversation, learning from other teachers, what words matter. What are we saying to ourselves? What's our inner narrative? All of those things are ways that we can sustain our joy, our ability to stay steady through these times. And so no matter what your role is, whether you're the chief executive officer of a major corporation, or a stay-at-home mom, or stay-at-home dad, or whatever you're navigating, you're not alone. We're here.
I love that. It makes me think, Lisa, with, you know, the different content that we share. So there's, you know, there are practices, and DeAnna leads a lot of the practices that are people be able to take home and be able to implement. And then there's, you know, some straight up skill type things that we share. In the end, there's one thing that is common for everybody, is choice. Everybody that attends gets to choose. They get to choose what their takeaways are. They get to choose how their life will be different after the retreat. They get to choose who they align with at the retreat. And I mean, it's kind of endless. What are your thoughts on that? How the choice plays a role?
What I love about choice, especially when experiencing a retreat, I feel like we remember that we have the power to choose. Sometimes when we get caught up in our day-to-day, our responsibilities or obligations or whatever that we're committed to, we forget that I can choose differently. I can choose to take a moment to reassess if this is really furthering me along in the way that I desire it to. I have the choice to be still and pause and be honest with myself to see, is this still lighting me up? I think what I love about any type of retreat space and the retreats that we're cultivating and even the webinars that we cultivate is that there is this underlying thread and theme of choice and reminding the viewers or the participants to remember that you can choose to incorporate a life or have a life that incorporates more self-care and well-being intentionally. It's your choice, and you can choose to continue as it has been. Either way, it's your choice, but being aware, because sometimes we think I have to do this, like there's no other choice. Really? Is there not any other choice? Or is it that you've become comfortable with the choice that you made and you're used to it? Because, also making choice, it's there's a segment of discomfort because now you're having to make adjustments and get used to adding this other experience into your life. And sometimes we can be creatures of habit. So there is a little bit of discomfort and stretching that takes place when you're exercising that power to choose, and yet you have that power to choose. Yeah, that's what I will offer.
You say it very well in your book, Terry, that your voice is a choice, and and it's true. It's true. The thing we don't know that, we really don't necessarily know that that we even have a voice that's talking to us throughout the day, and we can express our own voice in a way of our own choosing. We respond to our environment so much in an automatic way that we rarely ever stop to think, why do I think the way I think? Why am I feeling the world in this way? And there's a really good word for that, and it's Umwelt. Umwelt is how an organism experiences its environment and how we use our sensory receptors to respond to that environment. And what's being discovered in the animal kingdom is that there are magical ways that every single, from a fly flying through the room to an elephant and a whale, they see and navigate their world using sound and sensations and hair and all these different wings, all of it to navigate their world in a way that we have no idea. Their sound, that we don't have the capacity in our ear system and our brain and our neurology to hear and know what they do. And the same is true for us as human beings. I feel like what's happening right now is that we're rising up, where there's a lot of change and opportunity, and our environment is changing so much, and so much information coming at us, that we're actually creating new neural pathways and ways of adjusting to all that's going on around us, using senses that we don't even know. We have more than 5 senses. I mean, those Aristotle labeled 5 senses like like a long time ago. And we're now starting to realize and discover that human beings have a far more expansive amount of and ways of experiencing the world, more senses than we know, than we've identified. And so when we do the work of showing up together and we learn from each other and we have these shared experiences, it helps us navigate our environment, our Umwelt, in a more holistic way.
Well, you've just tapped on something that I'm crazy passionate about these days, and this will be woven into this next retreat, the next couple, and wasn't in the last one. And that's how I've been geeking out on the neuroscience. So I'm excited to sort of infuse some of the neuroscience that I think is incredibly important to our ability, as you said, to handle the bombardment of information. It was not like this 10 years ago, was certainly not like this 100 years ago. And so how can we use what we're learning from our neural pathways and what the neuroscience is informing to change how we operate in the world, right? So I love that. I want to talk just for the last couple of minutes here about who we hope comes. So you know who I hope comes? When I was hearing you say that, Lisa, I hope that the person comes whose inner narrative is just our little runaway blabbermouth, just going on about things that are no longer useful so that they can retreat and then move into a space of choosing words that and creating stories and narratives that serve them well. So I'm looking forward to some individuals that are ready to up their game with their word choices.
Mm-hmm.
How about you all?
I think for me, I'm looking forward to connecting with the individuals who find themselves kind of in this interesting space of wanting to run, feeling like there's more to themselves. And that can be in any number of ways, and wanting to express that more, but maybe not fully comfortable in releasing or letting go, or feeling like you have to, because like I've shared with my story, I come to realize I didn't have to let go of what I was doing already. It was just me shifting my mindset. So I feel like I would love to see the person who is in that very interesting in between, and is open to receiving some tools and resources and inspiration and play. The person who is curious, the person who is very, who is at a space of curiosity and would like to create a greater opening for a return or a strengthening of purpose and passion and inner resilience and power. And just, I feel like that's the person I would love to see, just the person curious about their purpose and how they can step more into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, I want the followers, the people who are recognizing that there's more to their life experience, and they don't quite know how to navigate it, because it can be scary to lead yourself, to figure out, oh my gosh, I've in my own experience, I'm away from my husband right now this is starting week 2, and I'm realizing how much I fell into following his patterns of daily, this is what he makes in the morning. If his coffee is ready, he makes coffee, and then we go for a walk, and then we, so this idea that, and he takes care of the car and gets the tires changed, and I do the this and this and this. So I've purposely and intentionally in this week set myself to do the things that he normally does. And to say to myself, what do I really want in this moment, rather than deferring and going back into follower mode. And so I just want to come alongside anyone that's navigating a new phase in their life at any age. I especially have a heart for nurses. I always will. So if you're a nurse and you see this message, please know that I would love to sit with you in circle at any of our events, but especially in Colorado, to help attend to your spirit, that this is our way of discovering our power and how we lead ourselves through the world. So followers, come on in.
Well, that leaves me with Colin and all the teeterers, right? Those who are saying there's got to be an easier way to juggle competing demands, and there is. The reality is there is, and there's some neuroscience behind it too. And so getting some tools in your toolkit that enable you to actually rethink this entire concept of balance, and rethink how you prioritize and what's more meaningful to you in your life, so that you create a life of joy. And that's what we're passionate about. So we're going to get to it. So I look forward to seeing you all on our next retreat planning session, and thanks for this conversation.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.